The first person to find House 12 was delivering pizza. His name was Mason Reed. He was 23 years old. He had lived in Marlowe County for less than a month. So when an order came in for 12 Bell Creek Road, the address meant nothing to him. The customer had already paid online. There were 2 large pizzas, 1 bottle of soda, and 1 short delivery note. Leave everything on the porch. Do not knock. It was almost 10 at night when Mason left the restaurant. Snow had been falling for hours. The roads were nearly empty. His headlights passed frozen fields, dark barns, and trees bent beneath the weight of the storm. Bell Creek Road was several miles outside town. It was narrow and unlit. Old houses stood far apart from one another. Most had a single porch light burning. Mason watched the numbers as he drove. Number 2, number 4, and number 6. Then the homes began appearing on both sides of the road. 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. After number 11, there was only an empty field. Mason checked his phone. The map told him to keep driving. He continued slowly. A few seconds later, the map told him to turn right. There was nowhere to turn. No driveway, no mailbox, no house. Only snow. Mason drove past the field. His phone immediately told him he had missed the address. He turned around and tried again. The same thing happened. As soon as he reached the field, the blue line on the map ended. A message appeared on the screen. You have arrived. Mason stopped beside the road. His headlights shone across the field. The snow was untouched. There were no footprints, no tire tracks, no path through the weeds. He rolled down his window. Cold air rushed into the car. At first he heard only the wind. Then he heard a telephone ringing. The sound came from somewhere inside the field. It was faint, but it was close enough to hear clearly. Mason called the customer. The ringing in the field stopped. His call disconnected. A message appeared on his phone. You are outside. Mason stared at the screen. Another message appeared. Bring the food to the porch. He looked across the field again. There was still no house. Mason put the car in drive. Before he could leave, another message arrived. We can see you. He drove away without looking back. When Mason returned to the restaurant, his manager checked the order. The address still read 12 Bell Creek Road, but the customer's name was blank. The phone number contained 12 zeros. The online payment was gone. It looked as though the order had never been paid for. His manager assumed it was some kind of prank. Mason did not argue. He threw the pizzas away and finished his shift. The following morning, the order had vanished from the restaurant system. There was no receipt, no kitchen ticket, no delivery record. Mason would have started doubting himself. Then he found a pizza box in the back seat of his car. The cardboard was wet with melted snow. He was certain he had thrown boxes away. He opened the lid. The box was empty. Written across the inside in black ink were 5 words. You stopped at the wrong door. Mason quit his job that afternoon. The story spread quickly. Most people in Marlowe County thought someone had played a cruel joke on him. The people who lived near Bell Creek Road were less amused. They knew about number 12. At least, some of them did. An older woman remembered a white farmhouse in the empty field. She remembered green shutters and a porch swing. Her husband remembered 2 children waiting for the school bus there. A retired teacher remembered a blue house with no porch at all. One neighbor remembered a red barn behind the house. Another remembered a pond. There was no barn. There was no pond. Their memories did not match. but they all agreed on one thing. Bell Creek Road had once contained 12 houses. Now it had 11. No one could say where that last house disappeared. No one could say when it disappeared. There had been no fire, no demolition, and no storm damage. There was no foundation left behind. The space between number 11 and the end of the road was simply empty. A week after Mason's delivery, Marlowe County was hit by another snowstorm. It was the heaviest snow of the winter. Just before sunrise, a county snowplow entered Bell Creek Road. The driver was Aaron Pike. Aaron had cleared the road for nearly 20 years. He knew every ditch, every bend, every mailbox. Halfway down the road, Aaron noticed fresh tire tracks crossing the shoulder. The tracks left the pavement and entered the empty field. He stopped the plow. At first, he assumed a car had slid off the road. He climbed down and followed the tracks. They continued into a straight line for about 60 yards. Then they stopped. There was no vehicle, no broken glass, no damaged fence, no footprints leading away. The tire tracks simply ended in the snow. Aaron called the sheriff's office. 2 deputies arrived soon after. They searched the field, checked the ditch, walked along the trees. They found nothing. One deputy suggested that blowing snow had covered the rest of the tracks, but the field was protected from the wind. Every weed and branch still had a clean layer of snow. Only the tire tracks had disturbed it. As the deputies prepared to leave, Aaron noticed something dark beneath the snow. It was near the place where the tracks ended. He brushed the snow aside. A black mailbox was lying flat on the ground. It had no post, no street number, no damage. It looked new. The mailbox door was frozen shut. One deputy pulled it open. Inside was a single white envelope. The envelope was perfectly dry. There was no stamp, no return address, only a name. Aaron Pike. Aaron refused to take it. The deputies carried the mailbox and the letter back to the sheriff's office. Both were placed inside a locked evidence room. 2 hours later, the mailbox disappeared. The door to the evidence room was still locked. The camera outside showed no one entering, but the mailbox was gone. A pile of fresh snow sat where it had been. The envelope remained on the shelf. A new sentence had appeared beneath Aaron's name. "Thank you for clearing our driveway." Aaron had not cleared a driveway. There was no driveway in the field. The sheriff decided to visit Bell Creek Road himself. His name was Daniel Holt. Daniel had grown up in Marlowe County. He had heard stories about the missing house when he was young. He had never believed them. By the time he reached the road, the storm had passed. The sky was gray. Snow covered the fields in every direction. Daniel drove slowly and counted the houses. 1, 2, 3. He counted all the way to 11. Between the last 2 homes was the empty field Mason had described. The tire tracks were visible, still, but they had changed. They no longer ended in the center of the field. Now they curved toward the woods. Daniel parked beside the road. He followed them on foot. The field seemed much larger than it had from his car. The farther he walked, the quieter everything became. He could no longer hear the road behind him. He could not hear the wind. He could not hear his own boots moving through the snow. Then he saw a black mailbox ahead. This one stood upright on a wooden post. Behind it was a narrow driveway. The driveway had been cleared. High walls of snow stood on both sides. It stretched towards the trees. Daniel knew that was impossible. The tree line was only a few hundred feet from the road, but the driveway seemed to continue much farther. At the very end, a small yellow light glowed through the snowfall. Daniel approached the mailbox. There was still no number on it. The metal felt warm beneath his glove. He opened the door. Dozens of letters were stacked inside. Some looked new, some were yellow with age, some were stained with dirt. Every envelope carried a different name. Every one had the same address, 12 Bell Creek Road. Daniel reached toward the top letter. Before he touched it, he heard a car door close behind him. He turned around. Bell Creek Road was gone. So was his patrol car. The empty field had vanished. Daniel now stood at the end of a cleared driveway. A white farmhouse stood directly in front of him. Green shutters framed the windows. Smoke rose from the chimney. A porch swing moved slowly back and forth. The front porch was covered in fresh snow, but there were no footprints anywhere. A warm light burned above the door. Someone stood behind an upstairs window. Daniel could not see the person's face. The figure raised one hand, and then the front door opened. No one came outside. The hallway behind it was completely dark. A telephone began ringing inside the house. Daniel recognized the sound. It was the old desk phone in his office. Then someone inside called his name. The voice sounded like Aaron Pike. Daniel stepped backward. The voice called again. This time it sounded like Daniel's wife. Then it sounded like his daughter. The mailbox slammed shut beside him. The house disappeared. Daniel stood alone in the empty field. Bell Creek Road was behind him again. His patrol car was exactly where he left it. The driveway was gone. So was the black mailbox. Daniel looked down. He was holding an envelope. He did not remember taking it. His name was written across the front. Beneath it was the address, 12 Bell Creek Road. In the corner where the return address should have been, someone had written 6 words. "We have been waiting for your letter." Daniel did not open the envelope. Not there. Not in the field. He slid it into his coat pocket and walked back to his patrol car. The drive into town felt longer than usual. The snow had stopped. The roads were empty. Yet several times, Daniel caught himself looking in the rearview mirror. He wasn't sure why. It just felt like someone was following him. When he reached the sheriff's office, he looked into the envelope inside the desk. He decided to wait until morning, but it was almost midnight. His wife was already asleep. He convinced himself there he had to have a simple explanation. The next morning, the envelope was gone. His desk was still locked. Nothing else had been disturbed. Only the letter had disappeared. Daniel searched the office. Nothing. He checked the evidence room. Nothing. He even searched his patrol car. The envelope was nowhere to be found. For the rest of the week, he tried to forget about Bell Creek Road. Then another delivery was reported. This time, it wasn't pizza. It was a package. A driver for a shipping company reported that his scanner directed him to 12 Bell Creek Road. He followed the GPS, just like Mason had. He reached the empty field. His scanner marked the package as delivered. He insisted someone had signed for it, but when he looked at the electronic signature, it wasn't a name. It was a single sentence. "Thank you for remembering us." The driver refused to turn to Bell Creek Road. Within a month, 2 more delivery drivers quit. One from the post office and one from the flower shop. Both claimed they had delivered something to number 12. Neither could explain who accepted it. Spring finally arrived. The snow melted. The empty field turned green. Daniel drove past it almost every day. Nothing ever changed. Until one afternoon. A little girl was flying a kite near the road. Daniel slowed his patrol car. She waved. Then she pointed towards the field. "Mister?" Daniel rolled down the window. "My mom says nobody lives there." Daniel looked across the field. "There? The little girl nodded. Then why is that lady waving at us? Daniel looked again. The field was empty. When he turned back, the little girl was no longer smiling. She looked confused. You can't see her anymore? Daniel felt cold. No. The little girl quietly lowered her kite. I don't think she wanted you to answer. Her mother called her from across the yard. The girl ran away. Daniel sat there for several seconds before driving home. That night, he dreamed about the farmhouse. He stood on the front porch. The door was open. Someone inside kept calling his name. He wanted to leave, but every time he stepped off the porch, he found himself standing on it again. Then he noticed something strange. The mailbox beside the driveway wasn't empty anymore. Letters were spilling onto the ground. Hundreds of them. Some looked brand new, others were stained with age. Every envelope had a different name. One by one, they opened by themselves. The wind carried the letters across the yard. Daniel picked one up. It was addressed to Mason Reed. Another, Aaron Pike. Another, the pizza restaurant manager, the shipping driver, the flower delivery driver, every person who had ever gone looking for number 12. Then he found one with his own name. He opened it. The paper inside was completely blank, until a sentence slowly appeared. You have not yet answered. Daniel woke up gasping. His bedroom was dark. Outside, rain tapped against the windows. Then he heard something. Metal. A soft, hollow clang. He walked to the front window. His mailbox door was swinging open back and forth, back and forth. There was no wind. Daniel stepped outside. The street was empty, and he opened his mailbox. Inside was a single envelope. No stamp, no return address. Only 6 words. Please deliver this for us. His hands began shaking. He turned the envelope over. The address read, 12 Bell Creek Road. Daniel burned the letter in his fireplace. He watched every corner of the paper turn black. The ashes drifted upwards. Satisfied, he went to bed. The next morning, the envelope was back inside his mailbox. Not burned, not damaged. Perfectly clean. Daniel didn't tell anyone. Instead, he drove back to Bell Creek Road one last time. The road looked ordinary. Birds sang in the trees. Wildflowers had begun growing inside the ditch. The empty field stretched peacefully beneath the morning sun. Daniel carried the envelope into the middle of the field. He dropped it onto the grass. Then he walked away. Halfway back to his patrol car, he heard it. A mailbox door closing. He turned around. A black mailbox now stood exactly where he had left the envelope. It hadn't been there a moment earlier. The envelope was gone. Daniel smiled. Maybe it was finally over. Then he noticed something. The mailbox had a number now. For the first time, it wasn't blank. It read 13. Daniel's smile disappeared. He slowly looked towards Bell Creek Road. Every house was still there. 1, 2, 3. He counted carefully. When he reached the end, there were 12 houses, not 11. Daniel counted again. Still 12. He looked back at the mailbox. The number was still 13. He whispered to himself, "There was never a number 13. Then he heard laughter. It wasn't loud. It sounded like people enjoying dinner together. Children talking, plates clinking, a dog barking somewhere far away. The sounds came from beyond the trees. Daniel stared into the woods. He couldn't see a single house, only sunlit between the branches. Then, just for a moment, he smelled fresh pizza. The same smell Mason had carried into the field months earlier. The laughter stopped. Everything became quiet again. Daniel got back into his patrol car. He drove away without looking in the mirror. Bell Creek Road was officially closed the following weekend. Concrete barriers blocked both entrances. New maps ended the road before the empty field. The county hoped people would eventually forget about it. Most did. But delivery companies still tell new drivers one simple rule. If your GPS ever sends you to 12 Bell Creek Road, turn around. Don't stop. Don't call the customer. And whatever you do, don't leave package. Because every delivery that reaches the porch makes room for the next address. And according to the newest county maps, Bell Creek Road no longer ends with House 12. It ends with House 14. No one remembers when House 13 appeared, just like no one remembers the House 12 first disappeared. Somewhere beyond the trees, the neighborhood is still growing, one delivery at a time.